Guillaume Boucher, thank you so much for your time today. I'm really excited to talk to you. We just had a bit of a chat just to kind of get things warmed up because we just met each other essentially. We have been chatting on X, and you're a very interesting and intriguing individual. And I've been very curious to learn more about you, what your story is, and what you're doing because you're doing some really cool
Yeah.
stuff. So it's a lot to get through. But I guess what I'll start with is who are you?
Oh, I don't know. I just turned 30. I'm still questioning myself about a lot of things. Uh, I mean, I'm well, I call myself a fake engineer.
Okay.
So I've been doing software for professionally for almost 9 years now. I started at an AI startup. It kind of worked my way through different types of businesses. I actually, you know what? Let's go back a little bit. So I started coding back when I was 10. I remember very vividly receiving my first laptop at Christmas, and I remember at some point going down the stairs in my house and asking my dad, "Hey, Dad, how do I build a website?" My dad's a computer scientist,
Oh, nice.
and he basically gave me a few resources, and he's like, "Hey, go on these websites and just learn." And that's what I started doing. So started building my first HTML, CSS, then dabbling into JavaScript, PHP, and then I kind of went from there and started building crazy stuff all the time. Whenever I would come back from school, I would never do my work for classes. I would just go on my computer and start building shit. So that's basically how it started. And at some point, I remember I was working at a restaurant, and I was a dishwasher there. And towards the end of the shift, I was kind of starting to work on a ride sharing app between cities, and yeah, towards the end of the shift it was a little bit more slow, so I got in the back of the restaurant, took a piece of paper and started reading proto code on that peach paper, and the chef at that time was just started walking around me. It was like, "Hey, you're coding?" And I'm like, "Yes, I've been coding for quite some time now." And he's like, "Oh, actually, I know someone who's looking for developers." And I'm like, "Oh, interesting." And his friend Kemi, who was one of the co-founder of that AI startup that I ended up working at as my first job. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. I kind of got into I after that I got into banking at Desjardins. I did the DevOps there. After that, I did some time at a web startup, and after that, I got into SureTex, where I led a few major projects there to build all of the manufacturing systems. To help operate the different facilities that we had at the time, and currently I'm a consultant firm, and I'm kind of slowly going like working towards building my own startup that's going to do PCB fabrication. So yeah, that's I don't know. I love cycling. I like making shit. It's just yeah. I'm just going through the motions of life, and just having
Yeah.
some fun as much as possible.
Yeah, and I definitely get that feeling about you. So just to kind of give some context to folks that might be listening to this, I watch Guillaume pretty religiously on X, and the reason for it is because you seem to let out thoughts that are
Hmm.
are, are, are pretty like are real thoughts, not just things that people will sometimes post for the sake of posting. And this is my understanding again. So I have a question for you, and I'll come back because it might seem like I'm taking this off topic, but I wanna kind of tell, like, do you ever feel exhausted from like sharing so much on
No,
X, or is it
not
just
at
a
all.
normal thing to you?
No, I've always had a pretty big mouth, so that's for me. That's
Okay.
just
Okay.
go ask my parents. I have very strong opinions, and I really don't stop myself from sharing them. So
Okay, then maybe this is a question for energy levels because I'm a very low energy person, and what I mean
okay,
by that is like I'm hyper, but I crash, and then I need my time to just kind of like just build the energy again and then come back. Are you that kind of person, or are you just always on, you're just never off?
I mean, it kind of depends. I would say that I'm a pretty high energy person. That's why I have so much trouble sleeping in general. Like, my usual schedule is basically from 9 to 2 3 a.m. So
Okay.
I'm always thinking about stuff constantly. So yeah, obviously I have my moments where I kind of need to step back and just think,
Yeah,
just to because sometimes you just have stuff that you need to figure out. So
for
yeah,
sure, for
that's
sure.
yeah,
So you mentioned sleep, and sleep is a really important thing for me. Like I sleep,
yeah.
I'm an early sleeper, but I wake up like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and I'm like, that's my peace time. Is your do you sleep well? Like I don't know, like do you sleep a lot in terms of like hours, or is it like a compacted kind of sleep, but you're just like you go in deep and you wake up and you're ready to go, or do you take naps? Like what kind of person are you in that regard?
Oh, I've never taken naps in my whole life,
Okay, you know.
unless I'm very sick. That's the only time that I'm
Okay.
actually napping.
Okay.
I think I remember my mom saying to me that like even in kindergarten she was like she asked the educators, they're like
Well,
don't get him to do napping, just get him a sheet of paper, let him draw or something.
right.
But yeah, no, I'm it's mostly like I don't sleep that much, and
Yeah.
I'm a very light sleeper. So yeah,
Okay. Nice.
it kind of
So
depends. If I had a little bit of drink before, I'm probably gonna be sleeping
yeah.
in a little bit more. But yeah,
Right. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. So to go back and I promise I'm gonna connect all of this because I do think they're all
yeah,
connected. But you mentioned fake engineer. So
yeah.
first I kind of want to just ask you like how do you define engineering? Because
Oh yeah,
it's a pretty big topic. Like I know we say vibe coding, and now there's like agentic engineering.
yeah,
And then there's obviously technical folks who are software engineers and hardware engineers, and mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. What do you
yeah.
consider engineering in your regard?
Yeah, so I said fake engineer because I'm not. So in Quebec, engineering is a pretty regulated profession.
Okay.
There's an order that you have to subscribe to after doing your master. And so I say that I'm a fake engineer because I kind of started doing engineering early, and I never got like I'm not an engineer by profession, but by
Oh, okay.
training.
I get it.
I'm a dropout. So in Quebec, we have before university we have cégep, which is basically 2 years
Right.
of school, and I basically dropped out after one semester. So I got into the professional world. So yeah, so that's my my
Okay. I get it. I get it.
yeah, that's why I
I
call
get it.
myself a fake engineer.
Okay. No,
um,
and that makes sense. That makes sense.
and so yeah, honestly, in my perspective, engineering is more of a mindset. It's how you approach problems. Then like, hey, this is your title, and that's very funny because throughout my experience, I've had a lot of people saying, "Oh, you're such an engineer."
Right.
so so yeah, it's basically your how could I say this? It, yeah, it's how you approach problems. It's how you decompose a problem. You break down a problem in order to understand all of its components. In order to, after that to like rebuild a solution around all of these different components. So it's kind of like. Let's say you have a Lego set. You build a Lego set first with the instructions, and then you try to break it down again so you understand how every part fits.
Right.
So then you can rebuild it afterwards. So that's how I would see engineering basically.
Okay. Um. So this problem, and I want to start first with you said PCP manufacturing.
PCB fabrication, yeah,
So PCB, those are the boards that essentially are in all of our computers. But maybe
yeah.
can you explain that for someone? So speak as if I'm 5 years old, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what PCB is, and why is this important? And kind of to go back to your question, why is this a problem? And
Yeah.
or maybe ask what's the problem first of all? How did you come across it as a software
Yeah.
background individual? Why are you even concerned with this? Why do you care? Why are you involved? And what's the problem? And like, and then we'll stop there. But just want to kind of hear your perspective there.
Yeah, so okay. So first of all, I've been doing hardware for quite some time now.
Okay.
So I in high school I did a few competitions and I built robots basically. And so I've kind of always dabbled with hardware. I've just very recently I built a whole automated system to grow leaf. To grow basically seedlings. And so, yeah, I've always had a hardware project on this side just happening in the background. And so the reason why I kind of went into PCB fabrication is quite simple. Actually, it's not that simple, but in my mind it is. So towards the end of last year, I started building my manufacturing operating system. So ERP, warehouse management, personnel management, everything that's between inventory to operations. I kind of built this whole platform. And I built it with a language that's called Elixir. And there is a very nice open source project that people are working on that's called Nerves. What Nerves allows you to do is to basically build firmware and software that will get deployed on Raspberry Pis that connects to your Elixir project. So it's a really great tool chain to do embedded projects. And when I was working at SureTex, I ended up with having to deal with a very big problem here, which was we had to deploy Android tablets so that our operators could interface with our software. And I had to build a couple of Android applications. One that packaged our website, our web app, so it could interact with different pieces of hardware that's available on the tablet. And the second one to do the fleet management, because we had certain constraints and we couldn't just get a vendor and just use that to deploy on our tablet. So it's called an MDM, mobile device management, and so I kind of built our own solution from the ground up. And one of the big problems is that Google/Android seems to be always adding more basically guardrails around certain APIs that you would get to do all of that device management. And I was like, listen, if I'm going to be building my own startup around like a manufacturing platform and I want to provide devices, I don't want to like have to deal with a big corporation that's like preventing me from doing X and Y. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to build my own tablet because I'm crazy like that. And so I started doing all of the designs using a Raspberry Pi Compute Module 5, and then basically build my own tablet around this concept. And then I got around it. I kind of got the design completed. I was like, okay, where do I get that first tablet built so I can actually test it, build the firmware around it, and validate all of my assumptions. And really, like the only places that you can get your design fabricated is pretty much China. Okay. So there's PCBWay, there's GLC PCB, Next PCB. So you basically get all of your files for your design, you drop them on your website, and then you have like complete visibility into the whole process. But the problem that I have is the IP side of things. So obviously China doesn't really abide by the same rules as we do, and so I wasn't really like interested in sharing those designs with them. And so I kind of had the idea to say, hey, actually, you know what? What does it take for me to actually build a startup around building PCBs instead? And I would be my own customer, which is great. So I can fabricate all of my own devices to actually operate my own operating system, like manufacturing operating system. And so, yeah, that's kind of where the idea, basically, where I got it from. And so I got really sick one week, and I kind of said I kind of took a couple of days off, and then I just binge watched a lot of videos, started reading a lot about like how do you make PCBs? What is it like? What's the process around them? And so obviously, like every electronic device has a PCB. That's basically what's bonding all of the different electrical components. That's like your processor, your buttons that you're gonna have in your device, your battery. There you go. That's so like that's the PCB right there. You know, like the little black thing. That's the substrate that connects everything. So so yeah, that's how it all happened, and now I'm kind of slowly working towards like finding VC funding and
this is awesome.
researching.
So this is awesome, and I love to hear that someone in Canada is thinking in this way, and is actually taking the steps. And I want to go more into that, but you mentioned something interesting. You mentioned that you were quite reliant on Google for something in your previous role, and even with your like when you were trying to do something with the Android deployment, there was a lot of guardrails and stuff on there. So what do you think about that? It seems that the world, and even in the tech world, which I'm a newcomer to, so I always thought there's like 100,000 different like companies and people doing things, because you hear tech this, tech that, but really it boils down to maybe like 3 to 4 players that kind of control everything and kind of do everything. What I want to hear from your perspective, like how is that possible? And I understand even now that's going to change a lot more. It's going to be more democratized because of agentic coding, and it'll make things much faster. But is it really that difficult to make things like would there be no value for someone, let's say 10 years ago, to have built a product that's an alternative to Google without those guardrails?
It's just difficult, because it's mostly like the way that they've been able to capture the market. So like, you know, like another example, which is kind of related, but like one of the projects I worked at SureTex was deploying a full RFID solution to track all of our assets. There's really 2 vendors that got like that are building the hardware for that. So it's Impinj and Zebra, and they sell their devices for a few $1,000s each. So, and you could try to get around it, but like you could buy like some parts from AliExpress, but then you'd have to like build all of the firmware around it. So it's really just they've captured the market really at the right time, and like for you to be able to rebuild all of that, to build an alternative would take probably quite a bit of time, because the complexity of those projects. So like, you know, you look at Android, look, it's a pretty mature product at this point. So it's just being able to offer the same level of, let's say, stability, that's going to be quite hard. So it's with everything that's happening, obviously, I think the incumbents will be on a hot seat. And I've started writing an essay about like how software will be way more diffused around the economy than it is right now. Even though we're pretty reliant on software, I think it's going to be even to a greater extent, we're going to be even more reliant on it. And I think a lot of it will not be coming from the incumbents, but will be coming from just a guy that has access to different tools, LLMs, to actually build all of that software. So
that's a hot topic. That's a hot topic.
Yeah.
But before we go there, and I just want to say, like, I don't mean to knock on the big players like Google. Like, I think it's a miracle that they're able to provide a service like that, because the alternative is there's no service, right? Because there's no one else that can do it. Yeah. So I'm actually happy that they can do it. I'm just thinking, how come there's no more? But I guess the answer is it's still hard. As much as we are forward in tech, it's still hard outside of the main players to do things.
Yeah, but it's getting a lot easier, you know, like with your like just with yourself, you know, like you're able to build something now, which is a great example of how like not only the barrier of entry is much lower now, but the ability to produce stuff is also much better than it
Right.
was. I always say that I'm an idea guy
Yeah.
more than I am like a coder or something. And so like the ability for me to just have an idea and say let me figure out if I can make this work, and then I have a prototype working in an afternoon. That's a great unlock because it means that we can test ideas much more effectively than we used to. So because instead of taking maybe a month to actually produce that proof of concept, it takes you an afternoon instead. And to that, like to give you an example, like just recently I built a proof of concept around harnessing LLMs for project management. Show that to my CEO, and right now we're building that complete solution, and we already have like clients lined up for perpetual licenses. So it's that's the great thing about those technologies. It's so much faster now to validate something. So yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
I think it's a brave new world, and we're really just at the beginning.
Yeah, and I think so. Now back to the hot topic that everyone and the entire economy will like, and I think I like the word, and I wanted to ask you what you meant by it, but you explained it. It will be diffused. At
Yeah,
first, because you used the word diffused, I thought you meant like there won't be as much of it, but you meant more so like it'll be spread. It'll be spread
yeah.
everywhere.
There will be a lot more, and there will be a lot more people like building it, using it. So my thesis around the essay that I'm writing is basically that every company will have an API at some point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
I think, yeah.
sorry, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, no problem. Yeah, it's just so you know like how we deal with companies right now. There's going to be like right now we go on a website. There's a contact form, or you're probably going to go on LinkedIn and like try to grab like some contact information, or you know there's like the sales process is built around is built in a certain way. I think a lot more of our interactions will be built around APIs, potentially MCPs, if we're thinking maybe in more agentic way. But I think businesses will open up their doors, kind of like you know you have like you have like a shop somewhere where you enter in, and then you have like your salesperson on the floor right there. I think there's going to be like that kind of same approach to businesses, but in a programmatic way. So you're going to have like an endpoint that's going to be able to to quote you that sort of stuff. So I think yeah, I still have to get around all of these ideas. That's why I'm kind of in the deep writing process. But yeah, I can definitely see a future where everyone has an API, and that's how you do most of your interactions between business to business.
Yeah, and I think the what I see is the as a value is the disappearance of discovery. What I mean by that is,
Mm,
as a non-technical, when I was trying to explain my issue, and because I needed a product, I needed software that needed to do something. When I was explaining it to this individual that makes software, software engineer, right? They may know my line of business, right? But even though I was using the words that make sense to me and people in my line of work, to that person, what I was explaining, it wasn't very clear. And every time the product came back, they just couldn't. There was always something missing, and maybe the
mhm.
discovery was my fault, and maybe I didn't explain the process properly. Maybe it was they didn't record it properly. But I just find the discovery needs to be completely out. And I think what what the value that I see for myself is now I can clearly communicate with the AI
Mhm.
what I want, and I can validate it. Like it'll bring me something back. I'm like, yeah, that's not what I want. Here's what I want, and then keep doing it instead of having this person dedicate. And it's not that I have anything against having people do the work. I just think that I'm the one that understands it, and I think
Mhm.
what's that famous tweet? You know, you can outsource your thinking, but not your understanding. And
Yeah.
the discovery process for consultants, right, is exactly they're trying to outsource my understanding, but I can't. I can't tell you what I do. There's so many nuance and details to the little stuff
Mhm.
that I don't think about, because I don't think about it. I just do it, and you don't capture that when I'm telling you what my process is. You'll need to spend that work, and like I'm in a leadership position, so I find a lot of value in whenever I'm trying to, make an implementation, or one of my direct reports is suggesting a change. I need to understand it, and it sucks because I know that there's value, but I need to understand it so I can communicate it clearly when I'm trying to find the solution, because I can't have this person with me the whole time, and because then the whole team will have to come with me in every meeting and everything, and that's not. So what I like to do is I tell them, hey, can you show me a few case scenarios and let me work them, like let me do your work for a few days or a few weeks so I can understand what you're seeing, because I don't see it. If I saw it, I would have done it.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason why I wouldn't do a value add unless it's a priority conversation, and that's what I really find value. I mean, the app, like the sleep superpower that I did, was completely something that I communicated that I wanted. There's 100 health trackers. I'm doing nothing new, but what I wanted is, can I make like a game type of thing, and it looks like a game, and there's huge inspiration from RuneScape, right, where I kind of stole a few of the items, and I kind of changed it around, and I want it broken down. Like I didn't want all the fancy, even though I love Apple, but I didn't want the Apple looking kind of thing. I wanted something that was just simple, and just because it was for me. And then it started to look like a product, and I kind of want to tie this in what you said, that you're an idea guy, and for me, I'm an execution kind of guy, and I'm being definitely replaced by AI, and that's fine. I'm totally okay with it. But I've always been, even in the organization, even in my job, even in personal life, I'm never the guy who's like, hey, let's go to this place on vacation. Hey, like, let's go to this club. I'm never that guy. I'm the guy that's like, once someone gives an idea and it resonates with me, I'm like, okay, perfect. Let me help you. I can make the reservation. I can call them. I can tell them. I can invite them. I can do this. And it's the same thing for work.
Got it.
So I'm almost competing when I'm chatting with Codex and Cloud Code, in terms of like, what do I give to the AI and what do I do? So I'm still trying to find myself a little bit in this world.
yeah. That's interesting, because I think I said recently in one of my tweets that like I think a lot of middle management, people that are like in POs or PMs, I think will eventually be somewhat replaced, because we can formalize the whole process around
Absolutely.
what they're doing in software now, and have the right harness to be able to do the same thing as they would do, but in software.
Yeah.
And that's basically what the initiative that I'm leading. So I think with the execution, I think we'll probably be able to formalize a lot of it in software in the next few years. So the question will be, I think, like, let's say in your case, like, where do you, how do you move up or down the ladder, the abstraction ladder, basically. And so I think, interesting times. I still have a hard time like really grasping how it's going to look like in a few years. But like, I think there's a lot of opportunity that we just are not thinking about right now, because we're still a little bit too on the technical side of things instead of being on the vision side. So
for me, it's exposing a lot of my own personal opportunities, and I'll tell you why. The reason I became an execution guy was almost a rebelling and revolution, or not a revolution, but like turning against idea guys.
Okay.
This isn't anything against you, but I've always found idea guys like, okay, great, you have an idea, but can we do it? Because I find that everyone has ideas, and if you're just talking and not doing, we're wasting time. And I found this in all my workplaces. I found this even when I was young in high school. We're talking about, hey, what we're gonna do this weekend, and everyone has all the okay, but how? Like, we don't have the money to go to Miami. So like, let's find something that's realistic and doable. Don't just give ideas and then just kind of cross your arms, and then Friday comes around and it's like, yeah, I don't know, man, let's just hang out at home, play Xbox. Like, I like Xbox, but we do that during the week. Like, let's go out, let's do something different. Like, let's go, I don't know, like let's do some adventure. And then that carried on to work. It's like we're in these meetings all day talking about like, yeah, we got to do this, but that's too expensive. Like, you want to make a whole app, who's going to pay for that? We don't have that budget. Can we do something that's more realistic? And so that's why I think I gravitated towards execution, because that was a real thing.
Well, as they say, execution is everything, right? You can have 1,000 good ideas, but if you don't execute them, like, there's no inherent value to them. So yeah. I get why. I get that.
So now I'm switching back to being an idea guy, and how Sleep Survivor, for example, came to be is I got a little overweight in the last few years. Like I got a bit of a belly, and but I'm a huge disbeliever in diets. I just find
Okay.
diets are very hard because like, first of all, we have one life. Like I want to eat dirty stuff. You know, I used to smoke cigarettes at the time, so I was like, I want to smoke cigarettes, and I want to drink a little bit of alcohol, and I like cookies. Like Tim Hortons chocolate chunk cookies are my favorite thing, and then I like ice caps. And to stop that because I gotta be healthy, man. Like people die every day. Like things happen, and I'm not saying we should just be unhealthy just for the sake of being unhealthy. But all I'm saying is there's gotta be some balance. Um,
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
but I discovered fasting by mistake. So I went on vacation last August, and I ate like a pig. I ate seafood every day. I was like partying every day. So when I came back and returned to work, like my fiance made some food. She's like, hey, I cooked some food if you want some. You know, I'm like, I don't want food today. Like, just I don't want to have food. So I didn't eat for like 24 hours, and I felt good. I'm like, huh. I slept nice. My stomach was flat. I felt powerful. I'm like, you know what? Can I go one more day? Which to me, I was like, this is scary. You shouldn't. You need to eat. Like I'm telling this to anyone that's listening. Please don't fast without like talking to a doctor or anything, because fasting is not a safe thing to do, especially for some folks who have. But and then I discovered that fasting is good, but then I had to learn and do some research that you need to get
Mhm.
electrolytes. So you got to sleep well. You got to eat well, because you can't eat dirty and fast, and things that
No.
came together. I'm like, and I kept having to do mental math about like when did I last eat? What did I eat? And I was like, if only I can make a tracker. In the meantime, I just got in Cloud Code and just doing some stuff for work, and I'm like, wait, can I make an app? And I researched what's the first, and I asked some friends, what's the first thing I should do to learn how to code? And they're like, the first thing, you want to make a calculator. That's like the very first thing, in coding. I'm like, okay, so I'll do a calculator. I'm like, can I do how many hours I fasted? I remember. And then it just started becoming this idea, and I'm like, oh, can I make it with monsters and Slayer and drops and loot and scoreboard and leaderboard? And I just spent a month, and then all of a sudden, I'm on the App Store, and like I have my name on the App Store. That's why I have this picture. I'm so proud of that. Like I don't want anything else in life. The fact that I have my name as developer on the App Store. So I've had to revert to Idea Guy now. I
Yeah.
still need to execute because it's not perfect. The tools are not perfect. They get stuck. They crash. And everything. But yeah, I think Idea Guys are definitely. But again, you need both. I don't think execution has been completely replaced. It's
No.
just a different type of execution.
Yeah. It's you're more of a conductor instead of being like
A
the
semiconductor.
actual. Huh?
A semiconductor.
So the semiconductor. Exactly. That's actually, yeah, no, totally. You're a semiconductor. You're still. That's right. I'm gonna steal that one. But yeah, no, you're just conducting a bunch of agents at this point.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
it's
And then,
I think yeah.
so back to the topic at hand, because I know
Yeah.
sorry for talking so much. It's just that really
No,
resonated with me.
no. It's
What
very
you said.
interesting.
So if you could break your problem into three sub problems that you need to address, which you are doing right now, I think
Mhm.
obviously one of them is money.
Yeah.
Which I think is everything. That solves everything usually. But I just mean, like, if you could break, so you want to fabricate PCB. What are the three main challenges that you're facing? I have to assume that one is funding, because I don't think you have $1 billion stashed somewhere.
I
And then
wish.
regulation has to be the other. I'm kind of talking on your behalf here, but I'll
No,
hand it
no,
over
no,
to you.
but no. Actually, you're doing well. Yeah. So obviously, money. So like the software startup is like that's the reason why, like in Canada, everyone's in software because it's the easiest thing we can do. But yeah, when you're making real stuff that requires various processes, and so it's basically hardware that you have to think about. And so there's machinery. Sometimes you have, well, in my specific case, chemicals, because etching that requires a bunch of stuff. Obviously, there's machinery that you need for that, but there's acids. When you want to make some through bias, you have to do a bias is basically just a hole that will be able to connect two layers on your PCB, because a PCB is kind of like a sandwich. So you can have multiple layers in between that will connect all of the different components together. So a bias will be able to connect two or multiple layers. And so for that, well, you need to do some electrolysis so that you can like basically apply copper between in that hole. So you're going to machine the hole, and then you're through through an electrolysis process, you're going to put copper inside of that hole so it can actually connect the different copper layers together. So all of that requires obviously a lot of chemicals, and so you have to dispose of those chemicals. Sometimes you have to in certain cases you have to clean those chemicals so you can extract some of the material that's going to be left suspended in it. So then after that, you can recycle it. And so, yeah, it's permitting. So basically it's money, permitting, and machinery. Those are the big three problems. And so obviously you cannot like just grab any building and say, hey, I'm going to build this there. And so you have to figure out like where, like obviously it's going to be in a place that's zoned for industrial, and then you have to make sure that you have all of the connections required. So there's electricity, and then you need to find all of your suppliers that will take care of like supplying to you all of your chemicals. And then in my case, obviously, like the capex required to do all of the disposal of the chemicals is quite expensive, so I'm probably just going to outsource that. And so yeah, it's a very complex world. There's a lot of moving pieces, and so I have to make sure that I master every bits and pieces of them. And so yeah, that's
in Guillaume's perfect world.
Yeah.
What's a bare minimum to start this? Like if let's say tomorrow this is gonna actually start working, what's the bare minimum needed, and what's the timeline? Like realistically, if everything works out, and I'm asking you a bunch of questions. Feel free to answer whichever part of this makes sense to you and is most. But I want to just throw some questions at you and just kind of see what comes out. And also, how would the Quebec and then the greater federal Canadian government how could they make this easy for you? Because I think that's what we want. I think as people living in Canada, we're so spooked out by all the regulation, which, by the way, regulations are good. I'm not against regulation, but they tend to have a side effect of also blocking great things. So what would you ask in an ideal world from the Quebec and federal government to support you?
So the great thing is that there's already a lot of really cool programs in place. So so in my ideal world, I need $5 million. I already have the 5-year economic model of the company. So I've already found there's a lot of businesses that could use my services. And so obviously I'm going to need to talk to them and get them interested and ask them to sign LOIs, obviously. So I think how can I say that? Sorry, I'm losing my words right now.
It's a hard problem. It makes perfect sense that you're losing your words.
Yeah, it's tough. Because I'm kind of like live translating as well, because obviously I'm French native, so sometimes I'm kind of like losing the translation. But
I should apologize. I should definitely know French and speak in French. But
it's totally fine. But yeah, so there's. So I think with everything that's happening, let's say in the defense world, I think the need to have a sovereign PCB manufacturer will be greater over time. Just for like I said, IP related reasons. There's also the fact that like the lead times when it comes to building PCBs that are overseas are actually much greater than you would expect. Sometimes it's a few weeks, and so like when you want to innovate on that front, there's like time is everything. And so being able to have a provider of those services here that can basically do a same day process where you send your designs, you're getting quoted, and then you get your PCB in a few days. That has a lot of value. So so I think like it won't be a hard sell to you. Obviously, like I said, there's going to be challenges in like finding the facility, being able to put everything in place. I think I have a strong conviction that it can be done in less than a year. So as soon as, like, let's say I get funding, I think in less than a year, I can have the facility up and running, and start producing right away. So obviously the biggest hurdle will be permitting. So I need to find the facility, make the design for the facility, and then get it approved by the municipal bodies. And so after that, the great thing about Quebec specifically, like I was about to say, is that there's a lot of programs already in place for manufacturing. And in some areas of Quebec, you can get up to 40% of your salaries and machinery being reimbursed by the provincial government. That's really related to where you're deploying your facility.
Yeah.
Some regions, like let's say around Montreal or around Quebec City, it's more around like 15%. Obviously, the advantage is that you get access to labor quite easily compared to like Gaspé or Shawinigan. But yeah, it's there's already a lot of programs in place that can help these kind of businesses get up and running. So yeah, the biggest hurdle is permitting, just because of the chemicals that we're going to have to handle. A lot of them are very toxic, so you need to make sure that you get all of your procedures in place to make sure that, like, like in case something happens, you're basically clear by the CNESST to say, like, oh, okay, you have, like, let's say your eye washing station, all of the procedures in place, and how to handle them.
The procedures. I think
Sorry, what?
The WHMIS procedure, WHMIS.
Exactly. Yeah. And actually, I had to at WHMIS. I had to take that when I was at SureTex, because we had the new facility that we built. We were building a part of it to make some of the raw materials, and so we were handling a lot of very dangerous chemicals there.
Yeah. So unrelated, but kind of related.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really important, like, because I, as a citizen of Toronto and Canada, like, I have no idea where waste goes. Like, I know where human waste goes, but, like,
yeah.
how does chemical waste go back in the water after it's been filtered?
No, and
where
that's
do we
the
hold
thing.
this?
Like,
it's got to be massive.
Yeah. So, like, there's machinery that you need, because, like, obviously you're not going to be dumping a bunch of acid into
St. Lawrence.
Yeah, exactly. So ideally you have machinery that can handle that. Like I said, in my case, like, okay, so, like, for the facility, what I call Factory Zero, like the MVP facility, that will validate that, like, hey, we have the demand, and then we can actually fabricate all of those PCBs, and then we add more capabilities as time goes by. Like, the capital required to be able to handle all of those processes is about $1.5 million. So, and that's just for the machinery. That's not taking into account all of the infrastructure that you need, all of the power that's going to be required to do all of that. So, yeah, there's a bunch of companies that I've researched that you can basically call them and say, hey, I need to have this and this chemical handled, and then you're going to sign a contract for them to pick up everything everyone's days. So, yeah.
Perfect. So oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
No. Sorry. Go ahead.
I have so many questions, so I can't wait to ask. So this was, I think, internal dependencies, but you mentioned outsourcing. And before I go to that, will this be an A to Z fabrication for PCB?
So with PCBs, there's a few things. Obviously, there's the panel itself. And then there's PCB-A, which is PCB assembly,
right.
Where you put all of the different components on top of the PCB. That we're not going to do from day one,
right?
Because it requires, like, the supply chain required for that is quite large. Then you need all of the machinery to be able to put all of those components on the panel itself. But yes, we're going to start with the raw material, which is a panel, and then we're going to go through all of the full process of making the end product with quality insurance, making sure. Obviously, there's a lot of variety when it comes to PCB, just like the the different treatments you can apply to it, hassle versus EMIG, and the number of layers. We're going to start very simple. We're going to do FR4, 2 layers, a bunch of different types of biases, but it's going to be quite limited in terms of we're basically focusing on the most common type of PCB first. Perfect. And then as time goes by, we're going to add more capabilities and so on. And eventually, obviously, I would like very much to have all of the machinery to be able to do PCBA. But that, like I said, that requires a lot more supply chain than just building simple panels.
So I first was asking about the internal dependencies and outsourcing. What about external? When I say external, when I say internal, external, I mean Canada, outside of Canada. How much is this startup going to be dependent on the US, Europe, China, or any other places for it to function?
Yeah, so
it's a silly question.
That's a great question. So all of that machinery that's required to build these that we're going to need to put in the facility. Obviously, a lot of it can be bought from Germany. The problem is that they're 3 to 5x the amount of money that's required to do the same thing compared to China. Right. So there's a great website that I've just discovered that's called Made in China, where you can actually call a bunch of suppliers and you can ask them for quotes for all of the machinery, and it's extremely cheap. So yeah, I think I think the great irony is that we want to compete with China, and yet I'm going to have to buy machinery from them. So, but apart from that, all of the raw materials, it's pretty dispersed. All of the chemicals, that sort of stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of chemical supply that's available already in Quebec. So we're going to be self-reliant on that part. So I would say, depending on how you frame it, it's probably going to be 60% reliant on the supply chain from Canada. There's going to be a 20% from China, and probably another 20% from the US. So
as I'm hearing you talk,
that's a breakdown.
As I'm hearing you talk, I'm so glad that I have my background or my passion into geopolitics, because it seems that you can't escape it. Even in your, which you might think no, but it's related.
I mean, we're in a globalized world, in a globalized economy at this point, and so obviously there's a lot of pressure for us to be after what happened with the COVID that exposed a lot of our weaknesses in terms of supply chain. I think it's good that we're kind of refocusing on reshoring and bringing back some capabilities. But yeah, we're still in a globalized economy, so you can't really escape the global supply chain.
For sure.
But I think it helped a lot to do great things. So our ability to have electronic devices that are so cheap is a great consequence of that. So yeah.
So another silly question, and again, I want this from your perspective, based on your work and your problem, right, in the PCB world. Why is made in China cheaper than Germany?
Great question again. So
sorry, just to preface that, I think there is the idea of it's less quality, supply and demand. China has more demand and supply, so they can. I understand that part of it, but with the automation, can't we? I mean, obviously there's the human rights situation as well, which I think, and again, these are things that by the way, I want to just disclose that I don't know this for a fact. This is just what we hear. This is just what I know. From your perspective, why is it cheaper to make in China? Why can't we in Canada make those things?
So, it's just because, again, kind of what we were discussing earlier with Android and Google, they've basically captured that market. So we've something that I'm very sad about is that we basically exported all of our knowledge and capabilities for manufacturing away into Asia, and basically took that up, and they started building a lot of tribal knowledge around it, and they were able to basically outcompete everyone. But there's the knowledge aspect. There is also the fact that a lot of their businesses are extremely government gets in there and like just drops money at them, and so that allows them to basically build stuff very quickly with a lot of oversights, and they're able after that to compete on pricing. And so if you go like let's say on PCBWay's website, you're going to be able to get yourself 2 boards for $5. We can't do that here, but that's because of their customer acquisition pipeline, they're
Right.
heavily subsidizing it.
Right.
Obviously, if you have more complex design, it's going to cost you, right? But like that, they have the ability to compete upstream on their CAC pipeline, and that captures a lot of the market. I think they have something like almost like over 95% of all PCBs are manufactured in China, which is absolutely crazy in my opinion. And they also have great customer experience. So in Canada, good luck finding the kind of experience that you get from a place like PCBWay. You're not going to be able to just get your Gerber files, drop them on the website. It's going to give you a quote for it, and then give you a lead time. It's almost impossible. You're going to have to first get into a contact form. Then there's probably, if you're lucky, there's going to be an engineer that's going to give you a call, and there's probably a weeks long process to just kind of figure out how they're going to make the thing, how they're going to make your PCB. So on the experience side of things, it's just extremely easy. And like you go on YouTube, and all of the people that are like kind of making hardware, they're all basically captured at that point. You're going to hear them say constantly, and now a word from our sponsor, PCBWay. So obviously, I don't think in North America we're going to be able to compete on pricing alone. I think we're going to be able to compete on lead time and experience. The same way that the companies like Ushcut or Senkan have created a great customer experience in metal or machining or tube bending. I think we're going to be able to do that. And then over time, as we're able to grow our automation, the pricing will get better and better. So I think it's kind of a slow process. You start with a great experience, and then as time goes by, you're able to apply more and more automation. There is very obvious places where you can put that automation and have great returns. So if you go on YouTube and go look at a video of like a PCB fab in China, there's a lot of manual steps. I'm just going to give a quick hint here, but QA is done manually. And so it happens at various steps in the facility. So you're going to do constant validation to make sure that like all of your etching is done right, all of your traces are properly done, and that sort of stuff. And then you're going to compare it with the design files. But all of that is done within the AOI machine. And then there's an operator that just takes a look at it and validates it. But I think with the power that we have from great vision models now in machine learning, I think all of that can be done super easily, and just basically have someone put a button, drop the panel on there, let the machine rip it, and then eventually get a result back. So that's a very obvious automation step, but there's more over time that we can have.
Right. So I like this. You're definitely fighting a losing battle, but the thing with fighting a losing battle is almost every time, at least to my knowledge and history, the ones who are fighting losing battles rarely lose. Because there are so many factors that whatever seems like a losing battle, it is never really a losing battle. We just don't have enough bandwidth as humans to, this is my opinion, to realize, because there are so many things, and one worry, and I don't want to get into geopolitics, but one thing that I'm worried about for China and why I don't think we should be depending as much is just a demography. Like their demography is not, and we have our own issues here, but I like that you're doing this, because you're going to create an alternative, and then with alternatives, there's always waves, there's always changes. I like the mission, but I do want to ask from an ethical or moral perspective. Do you have any of that? I mean, of course you do, but I mean, Do you have any, because PCBs is kind of like the semiconductor thing, or it's kind of like AI, where it's a tool to make work and compute possible. Do you have
Hmm.
any gripes about how that's going to be used? Or is it just part of human life that, hey, anything we do, once it's out of my hand, then it's like, what can I do, right? Everything we do really impacts everything. But do you think about stuff like that? Because especially with defense funds and stuff like that, I feel like that's definitely something that goes off in my head in terms of like, what's this going to be used for?
Uh, I mean, I
It's a
not
weird
not
question. It's a
particularly.
weird question.
Yeah,
It's a weird question.
yeah. No, I think it's a good one. But I, I want to offer a service that empowers our entrepreneurs, basically. So whatever they do, like, I mean, we're not gonna not need defense for
Right.
like. I'm sorry, but like we're still a very tribal species.
Yes.
And I'm a very big realist when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I don't live in fairyland where I think everything will be kumbaya and peace and rainbows anytime soon. And so, I think whoever has the bigger gun ultimately is the peacemaker. So,
For sure.
yeah, I don't particularly like think about that. I think there's there's many more industries than just defense, and so empowering those companies to be able to make great products is what I'm mostly interested in.
Exactly.
And so if we can have an edge to do that here, um, all the better. And so yeah,
I like that. No, I
I,
like that. I like that. And the reason why I think it's a weird question is because it places this onus on you, or even if I were to ask it to myself, as if we can control what happens. Like, we're doing our best. I'm trying to do something good. My intention is good.
yeah,
It seems it's gonna make people capable, but we can't put on unrealistic expectations on what some person that we're not aligned with does, because I'm providing a service.
I mean,
And yeah,
you could ask yourself: is the retail store responsible for the person who bought a knife and killed someone with it?
exactly. Great
So
analogy. Great analogy. I love it. I love it. That's really good. One of the things that I've been thinking as we're talking is, do you envision your mission for PCB fabrication for you to do it all alone and everything else automated, or
oh, that's
or
uh,
would you need other people? Because I'll be honest, I'm at a point right now where like I love people and I love working with people, but like the fact that everything's becoming possible where I can just talk to emotionless intelligence,
yeah.
and like just hey, like just boom boom boom, and I don't have to worry about, hey, like, is this person, am I being too harsh on them, or do they have other
Hmm.
issues they're dealing with outside of which is a real thing. I'm not saying
Yeah,
that I don't want to do that. I'm saying with humans we do have that limitation, which is a limitation, but it's also the greatness of humans.
absolutely.
I'm just saying, would it be possible for you to do this completely on your own, like you be the only human, well,
Yeah, the one person startup.
excluding accounting, excluding legal, like those things, obviously you would need human, but I mean, like, in terms of operations, in terms of making this thing, is it just Guillaume running around the PCB just watching the machines? Are you like a crazy scientist? Like, is this robot working properly? Is and then going, like, I don't know, like, how is that a reality right now, or we're far from that?
So it's very interesting question because there's this concept in manufacturing that started popping recently that's called the lights out facility. And so the idea is
You
that
don't need
it's
lights.
so because like why do you need lights in a manufacturing facility? Because there's humans in it, right?
Right.
What if you have just machines that are running the place? You don't need lights then.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a couple of them in China at this point. I've
Interesting.
seen very interesting videos about it,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
mostly around some hardware that they're making. Was it vehicles? I can't remember, but I'm sure it can be easily found. But yeah, I mean, I think in a future that's kind of near, but not exactly, it will be possible to have a fully lights out facility. But I mean, there's a lot of on the operations side, there's a lot of things that I'm not native to it, I would say. So I understand automation very well. I understand software. I understand hardware. But there's a lot of like stuff like building a facility. How do you lay out your facility? Why do you design it this way? How do you operate it? Why do you need these pipes there? Like there's all of these little intricate like decisions that you need to make that I think I understand, but I'm not privy to. So I think there's a lot of obviously I'm going to need to find someone who's more on the operations side to help me. That's a little bit more that's a little bit more privy to that. So yeah, no, I don't think it's going to be possible. I think, like it's kind of like Star Trek. It's what's that movie again? The one with Khan, the one of the more recent ones. They have like these new battleships that are basically operated by 5 people, and instead of having like 200 people on the ships. Yeah. I think there's going to be a point where we can have that for manufacturing, but there's still a lot of complexities that we need to solve before it can happen. So humans are great, and and even though in my autistic sense, I kind of just love talking to machines. We're still going to need them, and I think I think the ingenuity of humans is still going to be needed for quite a long time. So yeah, if anyone's watching that's more into operations side and want to work with me on a really cool project, hit me up on Twitter. You're gonna be the happiest man alive.
That's amazing. So I just realized we're at 1 hour, and I scheduled and for everyone watching, like I asked Guillaume for 30 minutes, and I'm so sorry, Guillaume. It's just there was so much, and there's so much, but I think we'll probably do another one a year from now just to see where you're at in your journey. Yeah. But I want to hard stop myself here. I think one thing that I want you to kind of end us off with, and this can be in English or French, is what's one thing that you want, maybe a saying, maybe something that struck with you recently or forever. What's like 1 or 2 sentences you wanna end this chat with?
There's so much things I could say. Honestly, I think we're in a weird but interesting period of time, where a lot of things are about to change, but change is good. Change and like that, the driving force of change is oftentimes a great. It's a great driver of opportunity. So, and I think in the broader context, like let's say if we focus back on Canada, I think we need people to start dreaming a lot more about the world that we're building, and like to get out of that kind of like software prison. People like to talk about AI, people like to talk about software, but there's no AI, there's no software if there's no hardware. And so I think we need to bring people back to something a little bit more like essential. Okay. And bring back people to manufacturing in general.
Okay, so then one more question then.
Okay,
if 16 to 18-year-old Guillaume is watching this,
yeah,
what are you saying to him or her?
Don't change a thing. You're on a great path. And that's often a question that I ask myself, because my journey, my overall journey hasn't been exactly easy, and so the journey, like the path that I'm on right now, is not the one that I imagined, but it's the one that I wished for. So don't change a thing. It's gonna go great.
Love it. No regrets. No,
exactly.
All right. Well, Guillaume, I want to thank you so much. I've learned so much. Like my brain hurts because this was a chat, but I think I was in like a university class. But that was in a good sense, and I mean that in a good sense. I don't mean that in the boring sense. So I want to thank you for being unselfish with your time and your knowledge. I know what you shared was quite intimate in terms of what it means to you, and how important I'm sure you're feeling this mission is to you, and I think it is, and from my view. So yeah, I want to thank you so much. Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, merci à toi.